Jill, I want to first thank you for participating on this interview. So my first question to you, why did you leave Goldman Sachs to build and run nonprofit organizations?
Leaving Goldman Sachs was really more that I just wasn't passionate about it. It was a great organization, and connected to all that you do, it was really an amazing learning environment, and I feel like it set the stage for everything that I've done since then. It absolutely helped me to develop the work ethic. I saw the light of day, not so much while I was there for 3 years, but that got me really in the habit of being able to get things done and learning how to get things done. My decision to move on really was based on the fact that I was not passionate about that, and I wanted to do something about which I was passionate, that I loved, and to be quite honest, it was also about a family life later on, and I felt like I would not be able to have the type of family life that I now enjoy staying on that career path.
Can you share with our audience about yourself?
Sure. Well, I am the very proud mother of 4 sons. I do love to learn, and I think that that's what my job is all about, is learning about entrepreneurs and what help they need and how we can better assist them to help them be successful in their endeavors.
What made you successful?
At this time, I don't necessarily think of myself as being successful. I think I have accomplished a lot. And when I look back, I'm very proud of the accomplishments in building the organization, but I feel like I have so much more to do, and I have a lot more to accomplish. So when I think of success, I almost feel like it's an indication of being done, and I'm absolutely not done. There's a lot more. I think that having parents who were very hard workers, very industrious, who were entrepreneurial, they had a business for 20 years or so, and seeing what their business meant to them, seeing the passion that they had around their business to the extent that they were working all the time. I think that that's what has led me to really want to do something that I loved and about which I was passionate, and led me also to this field of helping people to grow and to achieve their dreams.
Do you have a lot of mentors? And if so, how did they help you to shape your life?
I have different go-to people, absolutely. And I go to different people for different things. So when there's something that I need that's strategic, there's one person that I might talk to about that. And sometimes there are people who I know are just great listeners. And so when I more so want to convince myself of something, I talk to them because I know that I can talk through it. They'll listen and I'll get to whatever the answer is. You know, and then there are people that I look at their accomplishments and say, well, if they can do it, I know that I can do it too. So, you know, I think that I don't have a mentor per se, but there are different people who help me with different aspects of the things that I'm trying to accomplish.
Jill, I'm a big fan of Weibo, and I want you to share with our audience, what is the purpose and mission of Weibo?
Sure. Weibo is Workshop and Business Opportunities, and I'm the CEO of that organization, as well as an organization that I launched in 2002, the Institute for Entrepreneurial Leadership. And we brought the two organizations together in a partnership, really focused on empowering under-resourced entrepreneurs to build profitable businesses to help them be successful. And we do that by helping them increase their access to knowledge, networks, and capital. Weibo has been around since 1966, and a number of people that it has touched is just amazing. As you said, we've trained close to 20,000 entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs on average are creating 2 jobs for every business started. And it's really an organization, like I said, that has changed lives. It's not just about people being trained for the purpose of just being trained. It's that they are being trained, they're being empowered, and they're being shown a path to success.
What made Weibo successful?
It's really like any business, I think, in filling a need. There was a void there. There was a void for creating an opportunity to show people how to start and grow successful businesses. And these are businesses that are not the high growth, high tech, sexy type businesses. These are the businesses that are regular everyday resources that are serving communities. The local deli, someone with a service business, so dry cleaners, a restaurant, all the businesses that you need to have a healthy, thriving community. We do have some people that have tech businesses and others, but again, by and large, they're community-based entrepreneurs. And the success of the organization is that we are filling a demand, and we're doing it very well. We have an amazing curriculum that, despite the fact that there are other organizations that have popped up, none of them have the type of curriculum that Weibo has.
Why do you think corporations should help Weibo to achieve its mission?
Well, I think there are several reasons. That one, it's part of being a good community citizen. And these are the businesses that are building up the communities around the larger corporations. They're the ones that are servicing the employees where the corporations exist and where the employees live. Number two, a lot of corporations have supplier diversity programs, and one of the main challenges that they discuss is being able to find the businesses to successfully participate and benefit from the supplier diversity programs. And we see what we're doing as part of a continuum in helping businesses to get into that pipeline where eventually they can grow and develop into those suppliers for some of the larger corporations. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be someone supplying millions and millions of dollars worth of product. It could even be a caterer that's local and catering meetings in the building, or providing some other services, flowers, things like that. And then I think that the other piece of it is that there are just not enough jobs to go around, and that entrepreneurial thinking is always good. And so whether or not, if a corporation is having to downsize and lay people off, entrepreneurship certainly should be something that the employees consider, and it would be great for the corporations to help these employees to get their start along that path. And for some people, it could actually just increase their income in addition to working a job as well.
What makes a great entrepreneur?
It's really someone who always wants to keep on learning, actually. And you know, I want to take a quote from your book in here that I saw, the one that I thought was my favorite. You can teach a student a lesson for a day, but if you teach him to learn by creating curiosity, he will continue the learning process as long as he lives. And I think that basis for being a successful entrepreneur is that you want to keep on learning, you want to keep solving problems, that you are very curious, and that not being able to do something no is really not ever an option. You're always willing and ready to try to figure something out. Many successful entrepreneurs have failed in business multiple times before their success. We just don't see that part of it. And so, you know, I really think that, again, being a successful entrepreneur is being willing to know when to pivot and think about things, and to know when it's time to throw in the towel. But you look at that as, okay, that was a learning process and I won't do it that way again, but I'm going to keep on going in another direction.
What are the secrets of building a successful organization or successful business?
The business part of it starts with, one, you have to do something to fill a need. There has to be a need for whatever it is you're doing. And I think that too many entrepreneurs will do what they love, because everyone says find a passion and pursue that. So they do what they love, and they think that everyone else loves it as well. My philosophy is you have to do what you love, but you have to figure out what the need is in your passion for an outside market. And once you're able to identify that, you then move forward to build an organization. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's really the toughest part, is that organization, because you have to bring in people oftentimes who may not be as passionate as you about the business, and they're thinking of it as just a job. And at different stages in building the business, you may be somewhat resource constrained, so how do you get around that? And sometimes you have to figure out that a person may have been right to be part of your organization at the beginning or at a particular point in time, but then it's time to move on because they're no longer right for the organization. And so I think that the human dynamic of it really is the toughest challenge for most people. And if you can do that successfully, you can build a business.
There's over 3 million jobs are unfilled in the United States. And I want to find out, is it somehow tied with the education system? And if so, how can we improve the US education system?
So now you've hit my real passion, and I could talk about this forever. I really do believe, while there are very committed teachers, and there are people who are very passionate about teaching, and I think that my own children even do have some wonderful teachers, so my comment is not at all about teachers, but the education system is failing our children. It is not at all designed for the way that we operate today. Way back when, we had to learn information. You had to memorize lots of things so that if you were at a cocktail party or out anywhere or just as part of your regular life, you could recall that information. Well, with the smartphones at our fingertips, we really don't have to remember anything. So the whole drive to keep on filling our heads with lots of information, in my mind, is pointless. It's useless. And the challenge is that our young people are not being taught how to figure things out, how to solve problems. And it is a major challenge, and it's stemming from the very earliest ages. And even now, where you see, even in my own community, not a lot of children walking to school because parents are afraid something's going to happen to them, or they're just not walking. We're coddling children quite a bit these days. And I feel like it's not helping young people to figure out how to solve problems. Well, I think, one, we have to be willing to take a risk and say what we're doing right now is not working, and we probably can't do any worse than what we're doing right now, so we need to make change. I feel like we should definitely utilize all of the technology that exists out there, and something that's really interesting to me is the whole dynamic around YouTube, and the fact that, and my children were the ones who taught me this, anything that you want to know how to do, you can pretty much go to YouTube or go on the internet and find how to do it and see a video on it. It's amazing. One of my children is into rainbow looming, and he'll look up how to do different designs, and he's 7 and has figured this out. Something that a lot of adults haven't figured out. If you want to know something, figure it out, learn it. There are a lot of children who dislike reading. They hate reading. And you start to wonder why that is. And it's because they're forced to read things in school that are not of interest to them. And as an adult, we wouldn't read something that wasn't interesting to us, but yet we expect children to read things that are not interesting to them. And I have one son in particular, and in fact all my children, but one son in particular, who will just say things off the cuff, and you wonder, well, where'd you learn that? Where'd you get that? And he learned it from something he saw online, and he'll look at things and read things even online. And I think so often a lot of us want to say, no computer, you're spending too much time on the computer, too much time with your phone or some device. But in today's culture, that is the place where a lot of information is kept, and it's a medium for learning, actually. And so I think that we have to even reshape some of our thinking about the tools that we can use for learning. And so I feel like the education system, if we focused more on guiding children and helping them to take the things about which they are passionate and use that and applying it to writing and language arts, and applying it to math concepts and science concepts, that they would then be passionate about learning because they're doing it from a basis of their own passion. Mm-hmm. And it would teach them how to find information and how to learn.
Why is reading important?
I feel if you read, you have access to any information, any fact, any figure, anything you need to learn, you can do it by reading, which is why I feel that the education system is failing our children, because it's almost as if they're being taught that unless you read a particular book, it doesn't count. It doesn't matter. when in fact the purpose of reading is to get information. And so if whatever a child has as their passion, something in which they are very interested, if we allow them to read about that, we can help them to develop that passion for reading, which then would extend as they get older beyond just the things in which they are interested. If we help them to develop the passion for reading first, we will then give them the platform to use reading as a tool for lifelong learning.
Develop the passion for reading, and eventually the kids will figure out, and people will figure out what they want to read.
Right, and how to use reading,
right,
so that they're not just reading the words, but they're actually reading for information. One son who is very into Pokemon, well, read about that, and let's then discuss, well, what did you figure out, and how did the different characters interact? And if you ask questions and about the characters and why they did those things, you're then engaging and teaching still the reading concepts, so that as he then moves further along in life, he's able to use those same strategies in reading to get information that he needs. Because it's the reading strategies that are so important, not just reading the words and repeating things back about the information.
What type of books do you like to read?
I like to read self-help books, and my family kind of laughs at me because they say, well, you should be best at everything because you're always reading how to be this better person. And sometimes I have to pull myself back and think, Jill, just read something that's mindless and just a book, to be reading a book. But I actually get a lot of enjoyment out of reading self-help type books and entrepreneurial books, because those are things that I learn, things that I can share with my clients.
What makes a great leader?
I think that what makes a great leader is being able to integrate opinions and making people feel like they are a part of the organization, that they're a part of whatever the movement is, but at the same time knowing when you need to lead. You cannot just be willing to say, well, this is what everyone else said, this is what the team wants to do, because sometimes as the leader your job is the tough one and saying, well, we're going to do it in a different way.
Have you ever faced any crisis? And if so, did your leadership style change during the crisis?
Well, I would say in a nonprofit, I feel like you're probably always in a crisis state. In a nonprofit, you're always facing the challenge of having a lot to do, a lot of need and demand for your services, but at the same time having not enough resources. And every nonprofit, no matter how big or small, feels the same way. And so I just look at what others might deem to be a crisis as it's time to get to work, and it's time to roll up your sleeves. And I think for me, probably my leadership style does change a bit, and I probably become a little bit more insular in a crisis period. And it's maybe something that I need to change, maybe something I need to work on in communicating better and doing more outreach. But oftentimes in a crisis situation, I feel like I don't have a lot of time to drive consensus. I have to solve the issue right now with whatever the team or resources that I need right now. And I don't have time to figure out who can get on board and where to get resources. It requires immediate action. And when you're not in crisis mode, I certainly try to take more time to build consensus and get people involved, and is everyone feeling good about this, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Are leaders born or made?
I think leaders are cultivated. I see young people all the time who I think have leadership characteristics and qualities, and it really depends on how they are cultivated. And I think a lot of times, even from the very earliest stages, we do a lot to stunt the growth of leaders. Raising a child who has their own opinion can be very challenging. But when you get later on in life, you want people who follow their own path and make their own way and are not easily swayed by what everyone else says. And so I think that there are some characteristics that are innate, but they still have to be developed and molded. And I think that we are probably squashing those characteristics in a lot of children before they have the opportunity to be developed.
Every leader wants to get right people. They understand the importance of having the right people. How do you define right people?
It's really the right person for a particular job. And you know, I've heard other people say this, but often it's finding people who are a fit within your organization and then figuring out what role they can and should play. And sometimes you may bring a person in for a particular position and you figure out later that they fit best someplace else within the group. And so I think that even the notion of job descriptions and titles in some cases can hurt because people think of themselves as doing, you know, I'm doing this one thing here. When in fact they should think about how they are contributing to the organization as a whole, and that contribution may be fluid. And so for me, the right people is much more about figuring out, you know, who has the talents and the skill sets that somewhere within the group we need.
What advice do you have for young people who want to rise to the top?
I think that a lot of it is about figuring out what you love and what you do best. I'm not a big believer that everyone should focus on doing everything. There's a big movement to, you know, specialized high schools and a curriculum for law or medicine. You're a kid. When I graduated from college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and so I think that as a young person, it's all about figuring out where your passion truly is and really thinking about, you know, what would make you happy doing for the rest of your life. I have one son who has a tough time getting up in the morning. He loves music. He's very creative all around. He just has a lot of talents and skills. And I think today one of the things that is so amazing about the society in which we live is that you can make money and make a living doing almost anything. So it's, you know, find that passion, what it is that you really, really love, and then figure out the what you can build around that to make a living. And to really, again, be a person who is willing to figure things out. So even if it's not starting your own business, if it's being an employee, you will be so much more valuable as someone who never says, well, I don't think we can do that. I'm not sure how to do that. Your first response, if you don't know something, should really be, let me work on that. Let me figure that out. Give me, how long do I have to figure that out? Because if you can figure things out, you are valuable in any environment where you find yourself.
Why do you think it's important to invest on employee learning and development?
Well, if you have employees who are learners and people who are willing to figure things out, they're the ones who can help to solve the problems, and they're the ones who are on the front line who can say, well, you know, this is what I'm hearing from the customers, or this is what I'm seeing internally where we could really cut a lot of inefficiency if we did it this way. And so creating that learning culture, I feel, is one where you would have employees who are more interested in solving problems because they want to learn, so they're learning through the experiences and challenges within the organization. But again, being on the front lines, they're the ones often who are most able to suggest change if they're of the mindset in which they are accustomed to figuring things out.